Welcome to College Smart Radio, helping you understand the true cost of college and tackle the runaway costs of financing a college education. College Smart Radio is hosted by Beatrice Schultz, a certified financial planner and founder of Westface College Planning. Now, here's your host for College Smart Radio, Beatrice Schultz.
The federal student loan debt has surpassed the $1.2 trillion mark, and the average student loan borrower is graduating with over $26,000 in student loan debt. This debt is now accounting for an average monthly payment of $320 a month, which is higher than ever. At the same time, defaulted student loans is also at an all-time high of 11%, up from 5.4% in 2001. Recently, a study found that 33 million Americans qualify for student loan forgiveness but are not aware of the various programs that exist and are available to them. On today's College Smart Radio program, we're going to discuss the impacts. We're going to be discussing the impact on these borrowers who are defaulting loans and the resources available to educate and assist these student loan borrowers on the many federal programs available to them today. Hi, I'm Beatrice Schultz. Welcome to our weekly show, College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of a college education. Our show is about bringing up-to-date and practical advice to parents and students who are dealing with the cost of a college education for their kids. With some private schools costing over $60,000 a year, a UC costing close to $35,000, and a California State University running $25,000, parents need more help than ever. We bring you that help by sharing ways to pay less, tapping into financial aid, and prioritizing your source of funds to make sure you get through the most expensive years of your life. Based on my own education and experience, I share my insights with you week in and week out. I'm a certified financial planner and the owner of the San Carlos-based college planning business, Westface College Planning. I host educational workshops on college planning and consult with parents on a daily basis. And I bring in experts in many areas of the college process, from counselors, financial aid officers, student coaches, parents, and even students. You'll learn firsthand the ins and outs of how to pay for college and survive financially. In addition to our show, you can find lots of powerful information at our website, collegesmartradio.com. We have many articles with up-to-date information on navigating the waters of paying for a runaway cost of college. We have a monthly e-newsletter full of content about college planning. We also have posted a glossary of key terms used in the world of college planning. Terms like total cost of attendance, FAFSA, net price calculator, and so forth. And we have a link to our free community parent workshops and webinars that I host to teach parents about how to pay for college and how the financial aid system really works. Let's get started with today's show. My guest on today's College Smart Radio program is Spiros Mitsis. Spiros is one of the founders of Student Debt Relief, whose primary objective is to educate and assist student loan borrowers on the many federal programs available to them, including loan forgiveness. Spiros Mitsis graduated with a Bachelor's of Finance and Economics from the University of Connecticut, and he's joining us via phone from Florida today to talk about the federal student loan crisis and the federal programs available today to help out student loan borrowers. Hi, Spiros. Welcome to College Smart Radio.
Hello, Beatrice. Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure and a great opportunity to get the word out to a lot of, I'm sure, your listeners.
Thank you. I started the show with the startling statistic that student loan debt had surpassed $1.2 trillion. And I swear it seems only a year ago that the big alarm was that the number might hit $1 trillion, and we're already at $1.2 trillion. Let's talk about that huge number.
Well, it is a very huge number. It's $1.2 trillion, second only to home mortgages.
KFAS.
So that's saying something. Accounts for 6% of our national debt, saying something, considering we are, I believe, the highest national debt in the world. So 6% represents a very high number, Beatrice.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So those numbers are huge. We see these numbers. I talk to parents and students every day, and many of them don't even appreciate. They don't really understand what they're getting themselves into. So talk a little bit about student debt relief and what you guys are, why you started or how you started the company, and what you're offering as a service to our listeners and to the community. Okay,
very simply, customers will call us. They'll want to, talk about their student loans. They are most of them, unfortunately, in very tough desperate situations with their student loans. They're falling behind. They can't afford their payments. They really don't know where else to turn. And unfortunately, they're not getting much help from their own servicer. So a customer will call us. We'll look at their situation. If they have federal student loans, we know right away we can help them. Based on that, we'll look up their loans, make sure that they're eligible. At that point in time, we'll ask them about their income and family size, because the program that we're going to get to, the Direct Consolidated Loan Program, is a federal program that 33 million people are not taking advantage of.
So let's talk about the program. So some of our listeners can be like, well, some may be listening saying, I wonder if I qualify. So we can talk about the different types of programs that are out there. And also, once again, the website is studentdebtrelief.us, and any of our listeners can go there and check it out. Is that correct? It's .us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
www.studentdebtrelief.us.
Okay,
yes.
And I'll also have a link to that website on my website, collegesmartradio.com. But I'll let you go back. Let's talk about what kind of programs are out there that people should be aware of.
Okay. Well, if you have federal student loans, then first and foremost, you have options, okay? And based on those options will be based off your income and family size is the driving factor in determining your payment. So a customer who has federal student loans can view his loans, take his loan balance, his income and family size, and just based off that, we can provide his options in the program. Now, it gets better, for example, for people that work in public service, because the same employee who works in public service and who took a lower-paying job to be working in public service can take advantage of a 10-year public service loan forgiveness program where this person makes payments based on their income for 10 years. After 10 years, I don't care what the balance is, that balance will be forgiven by the Department of Education.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Typically, as an example of that public sector loan forgiveness plan, what percentage of income would be expected to be paid? That depends on the size of the family? Is that how the calculation works?
The way it will work, their payment will end up being 15% of their discretionary income. So it accounts for expenses such as housing, food, kind of the basic essentials and needs of life. A person will never pay more than 15% of their discretionary income.
Okay, so 15% is the number. And is that the same with some of these other programs? Maybe talk a little bit about this teacher loan forgiveness program.
Okay, well, the teacher loan forgiveness is only for teachers that work at Title I schools, okay, and there's certain qualifications you have to meet. Loans have to be...
And actually, before you move on,
prior.
Can you explain for our listeners what a Title I school is?
Yes, these are schools that accept Title I funding from the federal government. So it's a lower income, schools and areas of school systems, lower income.
So a new grad with a teaching degree, could they actually look and seek out to work in a Title I school in order, even as part of their plan to help the community, and to be able to work through the teacher loan forgiveness program? I mean, is that what some people are doing, or not so much?
Absolutely. I don't know if I think right now people are just happy to get a job, but absolutely, they can look and find out if their school would qualify for Title. If their school accepts Title I funding and receives Title I funding, then that pretty much would make them eligible for the teacher loan forgiveness, which is something they can apply for once they've worked 5 consecutive full-time years at the Title I school. Okay,
so let's talk about what other type of forgiveness programs are there?
Well, and I don't want to discourage anyone who's not working in public service. This program is available to everyone with federal loans, okay? So if you work in public service, yes, it does get better. You can qualify for the 10-year public service loan forgiveness program. However, mostly everybody else would fall into the 25-year forgiveness program where same situation. You make payments based on your income for 25 years. Whatever principal balance is remaining and interest is remaining at the end of 25 years, at that point in time, that balance would be forgiven. So everyone qualifies. It does get better for people in public service. and it does get a little better for teachers at Title I schools.
So for the 25-year forgiveness program, is that would that be the same, a 15% calculation based on what you can afford? Is it the similar number? It's just 25 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how about interest rates? What would happen? Would your interest rate stay the same on the loan, or would you be reconsolidating to a new interest rate when you take advantage of some of these plans?
Great question, Beatrice. The interest rate on the new program would be the weighted interest rate averages of the loans being consolidated. So we have 10 loans, take the weighted interest rate averages of those 10 loans. That will represent the new rate in the direct consolidated loan program.
So when you take a look at the loans that are out there today that are looking at new consolidated loans, what kind of average interest rate are you seeing common, or what kind of range would you see today for consolidation of loans that people have student loans in the last year or 10 years that they're trying to manage?
I'd say a solid range would be between 5.5 and 6.5%, 6.875%, somewhere in that range.
Okay. So that's, and either way, it's not costing the student any more money because it's been weighted, I guess it's been made out as a weighted average. So that's in line with what their student debt is today. It's not going to cost them more money. Correct?
Right. And an important point to keep in mind is the interest rate doesn't have much weight on these payments. What does have the weight on the payments are the loan balance, income, and family size. That's where the payments are derived from. So although the interest rate does play a role, it's a very small role.
It's a very good point. If you've just joined us, my guest on today's College Smart Radio show is Spiros Mitsis, who is a founder of Student Debt Relief, whose primary objective is to educate and assist student loan borrowers on the many federal programs available to them today. And we're talking about those programs today on the show. We'll be right back after a quick break on College Smart Radio.
For more information on today's topic, visit collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. College Smart Radio continues in moments on AM 1220 KDOW. Contact Beatrice Schultz at collegesmartradio.com or call 650-587-1559. Now back to College Smart Radio with your host Beatrice Schultz on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of college. I'm Beatrice Schultz. We all know that college is expensive and will most likely be some of the most costly years for a family. Understanding how to navigate the college costs is a smart thing to know. To help families be on this radio show, I host community workshops live and via webinar several times a month that explain the costs of various colleges, how the financial aid system works, and things to consider to prepare yourself for this tremendous expense. My next webinar will be on Wednesday, January 15th at 7 p.m. where I'll be hosting a FAFSA-specific workshop via webinar for parents of seniors that are ready to tackle the FAFSA free application for federal student aid. To learn more and reserve your seat, go to my website at collegesmartradio.com. If you've just joined us, I've been talking with my guest, Spiros Mitsis, who's a founder of Student Debt Relief, and we've been talking about some of the federal programs for students to take advantage to consolidate or to be able to manage to pay back their student loans, and also to take advantage of some of the federal forgiveness programs. Right before the break, Spiros, I had mentioned that I talked about the interest rate on the loans, and you had mentioned that the interest rate is not the largest factor that's going to come into effect for students when they start to pay back these loans. There are other factors that are more important to influence how much you're going to pay back on your student loan. Do you want to just repeat those factors again? I felt like I cut you off, and I want to make sure all our listeners heard what you were talking about.
Correct. The interest rate does play a role, but it's a small role. The large factors that determine what a customer will repay month in, month out on their student loans will be their loan balance, their income, and by income I mean their adjusted gross income found on their federal 1040 tax return, okay? So it's the adjusted gross income and their family size that's going to have a bulk of the weight on their payments moving forward in the direct consolidated loan program.
So I can assume that if a family, based on the balance of their loan, the AGI off their tax return, and their family size, were paying a set amount per month, and at the end of the loan they got forgiven any amount, then we have to assume they paid a lower interest than they would have paid because they got forgiven some of that loan. But if they ended up paying it all off in the 10 years or 25 years, then they would have gotten that average interest rate. Is that correct?
Correct. Right.
So you mentioned, and I mentioned it in my intro, but I took it from some information that you'd shared with me, that 33 million Americans qualify for loan forgiveness programs, but they aren't even aware of the programs. Why are they not aware of the programs?
Well, unfortunately, what we've come, as we learn and as we go here is 33 million people are not taking advantage of the program because they don't know about the program. Most of our customers reach us because they heard through the grapevine of the program, maybe a faculty member has considered it, but their servicers are not going to tell them about the program because when they consolidate into this program, it pays them off. If you pay them off, they stop making money on the loan that they were servicing. So quickly you see the conflict that arises with these programs and with getting the word out.
So these providers of loans, and we can say that Sallie Mae is one of the largest student loan lenders in the U.S., and they're also one of the largest collection agencies in the U.S., they're not motivated to be notifying the students that are defaulting on their loans that they have options. Is that kind of what you're seeing, and also the trend that is kind of happening?
Correct, Beatrice. Unfortunately, as you stated, Sallie Mae owns the largest collection company in the United States. So they have no business interest to tell a customer about this program. Number one, they tack on 20 to 25% when the loan goes into collections. So there's a nice premium that they would collect. Number two, these loans are guaranteed by our government, by the United States government. So they're going to get their money one way or the other. Also keep in mind, Beatrice, which we haven't touched upon, is they're in control. Okay, there's not many consumer protection rights for their customers, meaning they can go after a person's wages, take 15% of every paycheck that he or she receives. They can go after a person's federal tax return income that they receive when they file their tax returns early spring every year. So they're going to get their money, whether it's in collections, whether they take it from your paycheck, whether they take it from your taxes, they're going to get paid.
So that's an interesting point. You talk a little bit about the wage garnishment, or actually taking income off of your taxes, effectively just trying to take any income that's available. Would that happen simply when the loan is defaulted, or does that only when it is first defaulted, or does that happen as part of a collection process once the loan goes from the loan servicer to a collection? At what point would wage garnishment, heaven forbid, come into the picture?
Okay, good question. Well, basically, a loan goes into default. At that point in time, it's collections. They're not going to start, going after a person's wages or tax income just yet. They're going to send out the mailers notifying he or she, here's a notice, you have to stop paying back on your student loans. If not, we could proceed with a garnishment with a tax offset. So they're going to be warned. It's not going to happen, in seconds, but you are warned. But the threats are real, and it is something very serious to consider and to tackle if a customer is receiving these notices.
Very good point. So if we've got any listeners that are seeing the envelopes they don't want to open showing up in their mailbox, you want to open that mailbox, and maybe you want to call the folks at Student Debt Relief. So, Spiros, why don't you talk a little bit about how people could find information from you and how they can work with you to better to avoid this wage garnishment that may hit them next if they don't think about getting involved in one of these federal programs?
Good point, Beatrice. Yes, if you're getting these letters and notices, you want to address it right away. Why? Because if a customer is in default, we can still help them, okay? They haven't reached the point where we can't help them. Where we can't help them is when a customer is being garnished on their wages. At that point, they reached the point where companies like Student Debt Relief cannot help them because a judgment has been issued on their account. Therefore, those particular loans will not be eligible for the Direct Consolidated Loan Program at that point in time. So if you're getting the notices, open them. You're not being garnished yet. There's still choices, options that a customer can take advantage of.
Okay, and let's talk about how someone, a consumer or a student loan, someone who has a student loan can use student debt relief and what it would cost them.
Okay, well, I would first ask them is to contact us, whenever they can. We're going to go over their options. We're going to look at their federal loans, find out if they're eligible. I'm going to ask them about their adjusted gross income. So can they call you? Sorry,
just to make sure, they can call you even if they've been paying the loans, but they just were wondering if they may qualify for a different plan, or do you expect that most only call you once they've already they realize that they can't pay the loans, or at what point are you kind of hearing from both ends of that spectrum?
Yes, it's a full spectrum. I mean, we have people that are in a program paying on it, paying too much, wondering if something is better. We have the other side of the spectrum, a customer who is in desperate need of something. They've gotten the threats. Their employers have been contacted. They need help. And unfortunately, a lot of people wait to the last minute, but that is also, the spectrum is broad. It's broad.
How long does it take to usually get engaged in or to be able to enroll in a federal program, or how long from when a student, or I guess someone who's graduated but has student loans, calls you, how long would it take for them to be in a new program typically?
It's a very short phone call, 5 or 10 minutes on the phone. Once we have the loans up in front of them and their income, their options are immediately given to them, and they have options. It's not just one payment plan. They do have options to choose from. The income-based are the popular ones because they're income-based, they're income-driven. And it's very easy for us to get done. The process takes 60 to 90 days from start to finish. The hardest part for the customer is getting their income verification emailed or faxed over to us, and we handle everything. We process everything, and we follow up with the Department of Education. We do everything for the customer, and more importantly, we guarantee their enrollment into the program.
Okay, so what does that mean if they don't get into the program? Then, or you can guarantee it just based on you understand the qualifications talking to them?
Exactly. We know right away. The only way they don't get enrolled if they left out, when we ask the question if they're being garnished on their paychecks, or sometimes you see in very small sample where there's a judgment that has been issued that has nothing to do with garnishment, but it's a judgment. Once a judgment gets issued on a student loan account, it does make that particular loan not eligible for the program. But we know, like you said, by a good pre-qualification, we'll know right away whether or not the person can enroll into this program.
Well, thank you so much, Spiros, for joining us in today's College Smart Radio program. And a link to the www.studentdebtrelief.us website will be available on our website, as well as a blog that Spiros has contributed talking about the different programs that are available, the income-based repayment plan, as well as some of the loan forgiveness plans. Thanks so much for joining us on College Smart Radio.
Beatrice, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. We hope you picked up some new information today that helps you figure out ways to manage the runaway costs of college. You can hear us each week here on KDOW, 1220 a.m., Saturdays at 3 p.m. We promise to bring you up-to-date information from the front lines of helping parents deal with the most expensive years of their lives. For a link to a podcast of the show and our prior weekly shows, go to our website, collegesmartradio.com. This is Beatrice Schultz. Thanks for tuning in to College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information with you next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with certified financial planner Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. And join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.